What is up, everyone? Movie back again with another horror revisited episode. This is going to be for the 1991 film The People Under the Stairs, and this is directed by Wes Craven, starring Brandon Quinton Adams, Ving Rhames, Everett McGill and Wendy Roby. Now I'm just going to say, guys, before I go ahead with the review, this is a spoiler review because I go into a little bit more detail and in-depth here, so that is your spoiler warning. Now, this is considered a bit of a gem when you talk about Wes Craven's CV. Not necessarily a hidden gem, just one of his lesser talked about titles. Because when you think of Craven, you obviously think of a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the Scream franchise, Hills of Eyes 1 and 2, and his notorious film for the time, The Last House on the Left. They tend to get mentioned, and The People Under the Stairs never really does. So I consider this a bit of a gem. Regarding Wes Craven's filmography, really. Now, I watched this as a kid a few times, but not all the way through for some reason. There's only when I got the arrow release that you can see right behind me there that I got to watch the whole thing as one movie. And it's a very interesting film. This is basically a home invasion movie turned on its head. It sees two burglars break into this home, and what's in this house doesn't really have the type of things that's contained in the average household that me and you live in, let's put it that way. So our main two characters who break into this house are Fool and Leroy, and I really like the chemistry these two have got going on here, especially like Ving Rhames' character, Leroy. When some of the quotes he comes out with, he always plays a fun character, Ving Rhames, doesn't he? And I especially like it when Fool says, "I'm 30, and he goes, "That's a bad age. Too old to get tit, too young to get ass." Or when, Fool says, I feel like this is a really dangerous job, he shouldn't be breaking in, and he just goes, "Well, that's fine, girlfriend." Yeah, them two are really good together in the movie. And when these two are snooping around the house, the main characters who live in this house are referred to as Mummy and Daddy in this movie, played by Wendy Roby and Everett McGill. And this is when they come back, the movie starts to get a little bit crazy, because these two just aren't all there in the head. It's pretty evident early on. There's people living in the basement that they've kidnapped. There's a guy called Roche running around the walls, inside the walls. The cannibals. The guy notices that there's some burglars in the house, so he puts a gimp suit on and starts hunting Fool and Leroy around the house. And in the midst of all this, they've just got this pretty average child who's just pretty normal, but one minor mistake and she is abused pretty badly. So it's a crazy little household we're dealing with here. They also have a dog called Prince who takes chase after Fool and Leroy to help out this daddy character. And I usually like dogs, I'm a dog lover, but in this movie, man, I hated this dog. He's such a pain in the ass. Every time Fool's trying to escape, he's just in the way. He's always catching up with him. And, it says it all when he eats human hands instead of dog food. Let's just talk about these two main characters who live in this household, referred to as Mummy and Daddy. They're played by Everett McGill and Wendy Roby, who worked together on Twin Peaks, and I think that's how they got the part here, to be honest. And, they are the best characters in the movie. They are so sinister, they're just crazy. And as good as Everett McGill is, I just want to mention how good Wendy Roby is. She just edges McGill out to the best performance in this movie, I feel. She's always got this sinister look, and you can tell when she's just thinking of evil shit in her head, because she does this stare at some of the characters in this, in this movie. And there's a part of this film toward the end where she just takes a knife and runs at Alice, and it's just, whoa, that is pure Psychoville right there. You just a face. She's got all these great mannerisms in her face that she can just pull, and she just looks like this crazy ass character. So that was an excellent choice of casting on both parts, really. But like I said, Wendy Roby just edges it for me here. Get back to the story here, guys. You are always on edge for Fool's safety. He's a likeable character. You want him to escape this house. But Everett McGill's character is just always blowing the rifle through the walls, trying to kill him. And he's always got Prince in pursuit. So you're always on edge, you're always championing for Fool, and, this daddy character, McGill, obviously, kills Leroy, so Fool is on his own, and you just feel like he's never going to escape. So I thought the movie added lots of tension there, and it was really well done. I feel like this is where the movie shines mostly. It's just daddy versus fool in this 30 to 40 minute patch of the movie. And this is really where the fun factor kicks into play. Even if it does take a sharp turn about 30 minutes into the movie, which I will talk about in a minute. But I love the whole cat and mouse aspect of this film. Quick side note, guys, I used to be into the WWE as a kid, and I always thought Everett McGill's character in this movie looked like Vince McMahon. Yeah. Not like him really, is he? Let's move on. I also like, as the movie goes on, we hear more and more about this mummy and daddy character. Early on, there's a little story about them, and it's got a really creepy atmosphere, really unsettling score in the background there when we're hearing about this family. And as the movie goes on, we do hear more about them. It never stops giving with these two characters. You learn the family history and stuff. And I always forget when I watch this movie that they are actually brother and sister, it's just down to great acting, really, because they really are acting like husband and wife. And for me to forget every time just shows how good, the casting choices was here. I always forget the brother and sister every time I watch it. Let's just talk about the kills in this movie, guys. There aren't too many here. This is mainly a different type of horror movie that doesn't really have to go for that. And we do get a couple involving Leroy and Roche, but they're not really to write home about. And just before Leroy is killed, by the way, I just want to mention, Fool tries to get in the cupboard with him and hide, and, Leroy just kicks him out and says, "No room, find your own." And it's like, yeah, you've been calling him a coward and everything, but you're just going to throw him to the wolves. You kind of had it coming, Leroy. Despite the lack of kills, though, guys, there is one scene in this movie that always makes me wince every time I see it. And it's really hard to watch, actually. It's when the mummy character, played by Roby, takes Alice and just throws it in a boiling hot bathtub. You can see the steam coming out and everything, and you can just feel the pain on Alice's face. It's really hard to watch. And I have seen a lot of horror movies, a lot of violent films, but this one just gets me every time. Speaking of the Alice character, I like this little story arc she's got going on here. She's mainly a side character, but she's too scared to even put a foot wrong, and she doesn't know what the outside world's like. And when Fool escapes and she has the chance to escape with him, she's too scared to go outside. She doesn't know what it's going to be like. So even though she had the chance to leave the house, she doesn't. But by the end of the movie, she just says, fuck it, and decides to fight back and overcomes her fears. And I admire, the character she becomes towards the end of the film. It's a nice little arc going on. I can't do this review either without mentioning Roche, the other character. Just didn't really do it for me, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Wes Craven put him in there, for the audience, for a bit of comic relief and stuff, but he just didn't do it for me. I've never really ever grew towards his character. I don't know why. I know a lot of people do actually like this character, Roche, but just didn't do it for me, I'm afraid. That does bring me on to my next point, guys, the little U-turn I was talking about earlier on. This is a horror movie for about 30 minutes, and then it just goes from there to horror comedy in about 2 seconds. Yes, it's very noticeable, the U-turn we take, because for the first 30 minutes it's building tension and atmosphere, hearing about this family who live in this house. It's getting quite chilling, actually, some of the stories we hear. But it's, like I said, in 2 seconds, it just goes from horror to horror comedy. And it does work well as a horror comedy. I'm just saying, if you're watching this, you might be expecting a horror film, and then what you finish with isn't really. But the whole scare factor is just taken away from you within seconds. But it does work as a horror comedy, like I said. Some of these examples are, the daddy character thinks he's killed Fool, and he does this little dance down the stairs all made up with himself, and it's just so noticeable how much it goes into the comedy aspect. There's also another scene where, he shouts up through the wall, "I'm gonna kill you," and Roche fires something at his head, and all the characters make fun of him. And it's just like, these characters were quite creepy before, and now they're just getting the piss took out of them, really. Let's just talk about one scene that really does bother me in this movie. It's when Fool escapes and reports the child abuse going on, and all these cops turn up at the house. There must be about 15 cops just in this house. But they're all just standing there, drinking coffee that this mummy character is making for them, and there's about 2 people looking around, and they find nothing. The walls have been shotgunned through, there's people in the basement, there's just body parts in this house, and these police officers find nothing. It just kind of bothers me a little bit because these cops are so dumb, and this mum and daddy character just got away with it. So that is a little bit of an unrealistic scene there. And there's another scene that bothers me a little bit. It's when Alice jumps on the mummy character, but she just falls through the roof. Like, could you just break a hole in your floor and just jump through it? I just don't know how Alice managed to do that, especially with her being like, what, 8 stone or something? She's only a little kid, so she just breaks this floor and jumps on the mummy character. It just came out of nowhere. I just think Craven could have maybe thought that one out a little bit better. Also, later on, this mummy character falls on the floor and it's a stunt double. You can tell it's a man in a dress just falling on the floor. Did you really need a stunt double for that? Would Wendy Roby really not just fall on the floor? I mean, you can really tell as well on this Blu-ray with the quality of, you know, the visual image. Despite a few flaws though, this movie does end on a very high note, I thought. Everett McGill definitely gets his comeuppance by being blown up. So does Wendy Roby's character. She's torn apart by the people under the stairs that she's left under there for so long. Not even able to see daylight, you know, torturing these people all her lives. So she gets what she deserves too. And I like the house after it's blown up, all the money falling through the sky into the community, all these people that have been done so bad by these two characters, getting a little bit of their own back there. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now, guys. I'm going to give The People Under the Stairs a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really fun movie. The positives far outweigh the negatives. I have a real good time with this film, and even though it loses a really good creepy vibe it has going on for the first 30 minutes, it's still a really well done horror comedy film. At the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, the fun fact for The People Under the Stairs is that Wes Craven was inspired to write this movie after reading an article about 2 burglars who broke into this home, and when the police arrived, the burglars had left, but they heard noises coming from the rooms, and it was a lot of children that had been locked up there by the people who own the house. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this horror revisited episode. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these on the channel in future. Is there any horror movies you'd like me to review? Let me know down below and I'll take it into consideration. If you want to comment about The People Under the Stairs, guys, let me know. I'll reply to you all, I promise. If you want to subscribe, it's up to yourself. Take it all easy, guys. And I'll see you all in the next video.